All right, we are taping. My hope is that right now you can see the email that I sent out this morning. Is that correct?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to write 3 or 4 different applications. We're going to do it nice and slow. You may have done these already. I don't know, because I asked people to look at them yesterday. And when we do the case study, we're actually going to do a couple things that you're not asked to do in there. And the reason for that is when we get to chapter 4, it'll just make it go a little faster. That's the only reason. Now, your hands-on test, again, will be on Tuesday. I will make sure it is emailed out to you by 7. So if you want to look at it, you want to work at it or on it ahead of time, you'll be able to. I will, as I always do, from about 12:05 till about 12:15 or 12:20, I will go over everything that's on the test at that time. And as always, it will be due by midnight on that night. Okay. Plus, I've talked a little bit with Evan about this, and it's like he's really getting, I guess, some pressure on that whatever test I give should be the same test he gives. Whatever test I give should be the same test Doug Gegelman is giving. The reason I'm telling you that is what I'm going to do when I give that explanation of the test directions. I'll send it to all of you as a private YouTube video. It won't be on my regular playlist. All right. And the reason for that is if it turns out that either next semester, if Evan will be teaching the same class you're in right now, and if he gives the same test, I'm not supposed to set it up so people could go out there and actually, oh, there's the test. So just so you're aware of that. All right. Again, all your work is due by midnight Monday, and there is no class on Monday. I don't think there's anything new there. So let's get started. And what I'm going to do, this was really interesting, just as a very quick aside for you. This morning, they had their first test in the AWD1115 class. You start to realize how far you've come in the 4th semester if you look back at that, because I probably got 40 emails between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Even though I did a pre-test for them yesterday, which showed just about everything they had to do. But there were people that literally seemed very leery about just looking something up themselves. So let's get going. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to write 4 different applications. All right, we're going to write a price quotation application with limited CSS in it. Then we'll write a tip calculator with limited CSS in it. Then we'll write that price quotation again. All right, but we'll extend it. And then finally, we'll look at the case study. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create in here, I'm going to create some folders. So the first one I'm going to create is going to be just called price quotation 1. And then I'm going to make another one. You'll understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it later. But I'm going to have price quotation 2. Next, I'm going to create another one, and it's going to be called tip calculator. Finally, I'm going to create one last one that for now, at least, I'm just going to call case study. All right. So I've now got those 4 empty folders: price calculation 1, price quotation 1, price quotation 2, tip calculator, and case study. So looking at these, we're going to do them in order, but I've decided good, bad, indifferent, right, wrong. We're going to do the project ones first. I think that'll actually make it easier to do everything. They give you these, so we're going to right now go over price quotation app, tip calculator app, and styling the price quotation app. Okay? I'm not going to sit and read this stuff to you at all. All right? My goal is that if you want to know those guidelines, and if I'm doing something and you're like, oh, I wonder if he meant to do this or whatever, you'll go back and look at those yourself. Okay? So as it says, we're going to create a single page app that looks like this. All right. It's pretty simplistic. All right. But it's also more along the lines of the future value one that we did. And what I mean by that is, all right, we will have a model in here, but we aren't putting this stuff into a database. So yes, we are going to create a model, but there's going to be no DB set, no DB context, none of that stuff. So when the app starts, it says it should display the price quotation page with nothing in here. And these should both be set, it looks like, to 0.00. If you put in a valid stuff in here, all right, that should work the way it's shown. If you put in invalid data, you should have a summary and it should be up above here. All right, so here's the requirements. The only requirement for the sales price is that it's a valid number greater than 0. What I did was I did give it a maximum of 1 million. I thought that was plenty high. All right. The discount percent again is required, and it's got to be a valid number between 0 and 100. As it says, if you click the clear, basically, all right, it should come back and look just like this, except these two boxes here should be empty. We should use the MVC pattern. We should use a razor layout and use a custom CSS style sheet. All right. So with all that said, that's good. Let's just get started then. So I'm going to come into Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project. It will be an ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. All right, I will call this one Price Quotation 1. All right, and I'm, excuse me, excuse me. I'm going to store it. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to call it price quotation. Forget that one. But I'm going to store this one in my price quotation 1 folder. All right. So I've got a price quotation in a price quotation 1 folder, and price quotation will be both the project name and the solution name. I'm going to click next and validate that it's 7.0. I don't need any HTTPS in here, so I'm going to undo that. It wouldn't hurt to do it, but there's really no sense in doing that. And then I'm going to click create. All right, we'll give it a second. The order in which you do these things doesn't matter, yet it does matter. What I mean is this. If we go into our controllers and we look in our home controller, you'll notice that it has in here using price quotation models. All right. Well, if I come in to models and I remove that error file, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do it later. But if I remove that right now, what's going to happen is that's going to cause this to give me an error. So what I'm going to do on these is I'm going to do my models first. All right. So I'm going to go into models and I'm going to come in and add a new class. And it's a price quotation, but I'm just going to call it quotation.cs, just like that, quotation.cs. All right. Now, if I want to, I can remove this error model and I can delete it because I'm not going to use it, and my home controller will not error out. All right. And that's not a big thing, but I just wanted to mention it. That's all. All right. I'm not going to run it yet. So let's go over to our quotation. Okay. And excuse me, in here, we have 2 fields. All right. I made them both doubles. We probably could have made them decimals, but we're going to have a subtotal and a discount amount. And we're going to put some of these decorators in here. They're both going to be required. All right. And they will both have an associated error message. All right. And you'll notice as soon as I do this, I'm getting an error here. And if I put my mouse here, boom, all I want to do is put in my using statement. All right. We could have done that ahead of time just as well, but I just wanted to show that to you. So I'm going to say here, please enter a sales price. All right. And really that sales price is what we're going to call a subtotal in here. So I'm going to say here, public double with a question mark after it. And we're going to put in here subtotal with a get set. All right. So that's our first field. And again, this subtotal will be our sales price. All right. Okay. Then we're going to do almost the same thing. In fact, let's do this. I was going to do it afterwards. Let's just do it right now. And that is we'll put in our range too. So we'll say here range. And all we're told in here is that it is supposed to be 0. All right. And I put in 0 and 1 million. All right. You don't have to do that, but I don't think that we're going to have a sale greater than that. And again, we'll have in here error message equal, and just like we did before, and I'm going to say sales amount must be between, let's make that 1 because I think they said it had to be greater than 0. So must be between 1 and 1 million, just like that. All right. So that's what we're setting up in here for the subtotal. To try to make this run just a little bit faster, I'm going to copy this and then make some changes to it. So that's my first field. But now I'm going to say in here, please enter a discount amount. All right. And the discount is going to be between 0 and 100. 0 meaning you get no discount. All right. And this will be discount amount must be between 0 and 100. All right. And this will be discount amount. Now, hopefully, at least, hopefully, I didn't confuse you. In fact, it's not a discount amount. I apologize. It's a discount percent. I didn't want to try to confuse you or anyone else watching this video, but once I put in something and it's not showing me any errors, I just wanted to copy it because I thought it would make it easier. We're not done yet, but we are done with both our properties. We have 2 of them in here, a sales price and a discount amount. Those things are basically, there's our subtotal. So I could have called it subtotal. I just called it sales amount. That would have been fine to call it subtotal. And that's our discount percent. All right. And you may or may not be able to tell looking at these, but these 2 fields are going to both end up being text boxes or inputs. These are both going to end up being labels. All right. And they're also going to be read-only labels because there shouldn't be any reason. I mean, a label by its very essence is read-only. All right. Because you shouldn't be able to go in and monkey with those things yourself. Okay. So we've got that. And I'm going to take for granted that if you have any questions, you're going to ask. And otherwise, we're just going to continue on. All right. So we've got these. We've got our required with our message for both of these. And we've got our range for both of these. All right. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to write a couple methods. We're going to write a calculate discount method and a calculate total method. All right. So first we're going to have a public double, calculate discount. And then when we get done, like I said, we'll do a similar one, but it'll be a calculate total. All right. Now we're going to say in here, if the subtotal dot has value, all that means is if there's something in there. All right. And the discount percent dot has value. All right, that means we have filled in both. Well, what does that mean? That means that we can actually figure out what the discount is. All right, so we can return subtotal dot value times, then in percent, discount percent dot value divided by 100. And that's it for that part. Now we're still getting an error because we have an if, which means we'll get one of those not all paths are returning a value error. So otherwise, whatever we put in here was bad. So we're just going to return 0.0. We could just return 0 as well. Since it's a double, I added the 0.0 on there. It really would work just fine whether we do it like that or not. All right. So that's this. And hopefully everything that's in there makes sense. All right. And if it doesn't, you're going to ask. So now we've got a public double. And this is nice and short, but this is calculate price. All right. And all we want to say is if there is a subtotal. All right. So if the subtotal dot has value, same thing we did up here, but we're not checking now for a discount. So we're just going to come in here and say if subtotal dot has value. All right. So if it does, we want to, we'll say double and we'll set the discount equal to calculate discount. So in other words, what we're doing is we're calling the method that we wrote earlier. All right. Otherwise, in fact, we didn't return yet, so let's return. So we want to return the subtotal value minus that discount. All right. And otherwise, there was a problem. So again, we will just return 0.0. So again, these are our two methods in here. When we come in to calculate the discount, we want to make sure that we've got something in here. So if we've got a value in there for a subtotal, and if we've got a value in there for the discount percent, we want to take that value for our subtotal and multiply it by that percent. But that percent, if we put a 5 in there, we want to make sure it's really 5%. So that's why we're doing that calculation. If one of these is missing a value, we're just going to return 0. All right. Now, that's not maybe the best way to write it, but it's probably the most straightforward way of writing it. Then when we calculate the price, we're just coming in again and saying, if there is a subtotal value, let's figure out the discount by calling that calculate discount, which is either going to return this or it's going to return 0. All right. So we take the subtotal's value and subtract from that the discount. If there is no discount or if something went awry, we're just going to return 0 right there. And again, I'm hoping at least that all makes sense and you find that to be at least, I don't know, somewhat, if not totally straightforward, then at least somewhat straightforward. All right. So we've got that so far. But right now we have basically nothing in our home controller. We have nothing in our index view. All right. So we've got to go in and handle those. So let me do a file, save all to start. All right. And then next I went in and worked on the controller. Right now that controller again has got a bunch of junk in there we don't need. What do I mean? Well, again, we're not using anything with logging. So I'm going to get rid of that. Boom, it's gone. We're not doing anything with privacy. All right. So that is gone. We are not doing anything with that error model. In fact, we removed it. So that is gone. So we've thinned out, basically, we've thinned out our index file. But because of the fact that we're working with a view here, I'm sorry, that we're working with a form here, we're going to have both, again, an HTTP GET and an HTTP POST. So let's make this one our GET. And remember that when you do a GET, basically what you're doing is you are presenting the form. And when you do a POST, you are basically submitting the form. All right. What we are told is when we start, we want the discount and the total to both be 0. All right. And we don't have variables for those, but we can make viewBag variables. So I'm going to say viewBag dot discount equals 0.0 and viewBag dot total equals 0.0. All right. Now we can just return the view because we've set those two values. That again is our get. Okay. It is not our post. So let's come down and write the post. Remember that when we do this and we come in and we say public iAction result index, that we must put something in here. You have to, because we have to overload the method because it has the same name, even though one is decorated with get and one is decorated with post. So what are we going to put in here? Well, we're going to grab something from quotation, and I'm just going to call it quote. Again, we could have called it price quote or anything we wanted to. All right. So this is pretty simple. What we want to do in here is we want to verify and validate that the information that we put into those two text boxes was valid. What does that mean? It means A, they were both numeric, B, that the one is between 1 and 1 million for our subtotal, and that our discount amount is between 1 and 100. All right. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying if model state dot is valid. All right. So everything was cool. So now we can say viewBag dot discount equals quote dot calculate discount. So now we could call that. All right. And we can also do the total by saying viewBag dot total equals quote dot calculate total. All right, and I'm looking in here, so let's look. Calculate, and it looks like I don't have a calculate total. So let's take a quick look and see. That means that in here, where I call that calculate price, I should have called it calculate total. So please go back into your quotation.cs. We can keep it calculate price, but it's a total. And I think that makes more sense than calculate price. So I apologize. Make it calculate total. And then in here, it can also be calculate. And now we've got to calculate total. All right. Now we're not done yet. We're still getting an error because we're not returning anything. All right. If this did not work, all right, meaning that when we tried to put the model state in there, it failed, meaning either we left it blank, we put in something non-numeric, or we put in something out of range. So if that's the case, we want to say viewBag.discount equals 0.0 and viewBag.total equals 0.0. We're still getting an error because we haven't returned anything. Now we can return our view with our quote object inside of it. All right. We're making progress. We're not there yet, but we're almost there. All right, so now we have a controller. And if we go over to our views, we've got a home controller in there. We don't have privacy anymore. We remove that. So I'm going to remove the privacy.cs HTML file. That is code bloat. And if you're not going to use it, there really and truly is no reason to have it in there. All right. So let's go to our index.cs HTML file, which is right here. And for lack of better words, right now, it's basically garbage. It's the thing that says welcome, etc. We can keep this. That's fine, but I'm going to get rid of the rest of it. And at the top, what we want to do is we want to do an @model of quotation. And that's going to make everything that's in our quotation model available to our program. All right. Now, next, we are told to add this validation summary above the form. So I'm going to come in here and do a div ASP validation summary. I'm picking it up from the IntelliSense. I can say all, just like that. All right. And now I can put in my form. And this particular example is going to have basically no bootstrap in it. In just a minute or two, after we quickly do our layout, we will go in and add something to our site.css, but literally it'll only be about 10 lines long. So let's start in here by putting in our form. Now, our ASP action is going to be equal to index. All right. We could put our controller in there, but we only have one. So it is defaulting to the index action of the home controller. All right. So we've got that in, and our method, because the one we want to call here is post. So again, what I'm telling you is if we wanted to, we could come in here and say ASP controller equal home. That's totally okay, totally legit to do that. But again, when you look over here, we only have one controller. So it really doesn't have much choice. I'll leave it there for completeness sake, but by no means do you have to do that. All right. Then I'm going to come in here and put in about 5 different divs, but I'll do them one at a time because I'm not in any hurry. So label ASP4 equal, and this is our first one. So this is our subtotal. Like that, and it probably didn't pick it up because, of course, I spelled label wrong. All right, so 4 equals subtotal with label. And then we have our input for subtotal. Okay, so that's the first one. And again, I know you're all bright people. That is handling this and the label. So I guess both of them. Now we'll put in this one, and it'll look very similar. Instead of saying subtotal, it'll say discount percent. And then we'll do these two. These will be different. All right. There is no ASP4 here. These are not linked up to fields that are in a model like subtotal and discount percent are. All right. And since they are not, they'll be regular labels. All right. And they'll be a little bit simpler. We're going to use the view bag values to fill those up. But to try to make it a little simpler on myself, I'm going to copy just this one and then paste it in. Now I'm going to change this from subtotal to discount percent. And I'm going to change this one to discount percent. So now we have about not quite half our interface built. All right. So let's come in here and put in our other one. So we got another div in here. And this next one is just, again, a straight label. It will say total. All right. And underneath that, we'll have another label because, again, we want it to be read only. And that'll be our view bag dot. That's our discount, I think. What is it? There is a discount amount and there is a total. So I was going to put them in reverse order. So there's a discount amount. All right. And that'll be our view bag dot discount. All right. So that's the first one. And again, to make it a little easier on myself, I'm going to copy that down. And then this one will be our total. All right. And this will be our view bag dot total. All right. Getting there. But the other thing is these are going to look funky right now. So let's do our discount and our total. Let's do a dot toString on each one of them. And we'll tell it we want currency with 2 decimal places in it. Usually by default, when you put in a currency, it'll put it to 2 decimal places anyway, but I'm leaving no doubt. So this is our form so far, and I'll come right back to it. But what we've done then in our form right now is we've got all that done. The price quotation and all of these fields there. So we need our calculate button and we need our clear link. All right. So those are the 2 we need. So we're going to put in another div. And this will be a button. Type equals submit. Called calculate. And then we will put in our link. The action here will be index. Again, if we want to, we can come in and, as we did before up here, we could say ASP controller equal home and then our action equal index. So if we want, we can do this. It will work with that. It will work without that. All right. So we have now gone in and we added our model to begin with, which included our 2 fields that we're able to manipulate in here, those being the subtotal or our price amount and the discount amount. Then we went in after that and we added 2 methods into our model. All right. And those methods were so that we would be able to calculate the discount amount and calculate the price. After that, we went in and we fixed, so to speak, our home controller by removing the stuff we did not need. In other words, we removed the privacy stuff and all the logger stuff. All right. And we went in and added into there. All right. We made some changes to our index. All right. So that it was able to call those methods that were in our model. Finally, we're coming in here into our home, or I should say our index.cshtml. All right. And we have set all of that up. So what's left to do is a very small layout. We're going to write our own. But before we do, which we're going to do in just a second, let's do a file, save all. All right. Let's look right now. And again, we don't need this validation script partial. We don't need this error thing in here. So I'm going to delete them. All right. In my layout, right now, what's in here in the layout is the default layout. Okay. This is the stuff, I'm sorry, this is the stuff we just put into our layout. All right. And where I put it in, now that I'm looking at this, what did I do here? Okay, there's our index. right here. That's what we want. And then in our layout, that's this. Well, there's a lot more stuff in here that we don't really need. What they showed in here was something unbelievably simplistic. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make ours unbelievably simplistic. How? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the doc type. I'm going to keep the HTML. I'm going to keep the head here. I can keep this. This just says we're using Unicode rather. That's fine. We can keep the viewport and the title. Those are all fine. All right. But as far as what's left, I'm going to get rid of these two. In fact, I'm going to keep the last one. That's the one I want. We want to still use in here our styles. Now it's got in here ASP append version equal true. I don't think that's going to hurt anything, but we could literally remove that too. Okay. In fact, when I did it, I didn't even have it. Okay. So I'm going to remove that. Now also look in here. Do I have a price quotation styles? No, but I have a www root that's got a CSS that's got a site.cs. This is what we're going to manipulate in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this so that it says CSS. Okay, and then notice there's our site CSS. So we've modified our head section to look like this. And we're going to modify our header section. We're going to totally get rid of the nav bar. There's no reason to put it in here. And we're going to replace that with first an H1 tag that just says price quotation. All right, that's the first thing. And then we're going to come in and make major modifications in here. We don't need a footer. So I'm going to get rid of that. And in here, we can keep it, but we really don't need a container. We're not doing anything in here. All right. So I'm basically removing the stuff in here that we would use if we were using Bootstrap, because we're not. So we cut this down. So right now, this is our entire layout file. Now, typically, and you know this probably, typically we wouldn't make it this simplistic. But because of the example that we have in the book and what we're doing, this is totally fine. All right. So let me save again. And let me look at one more thing, and that is the view imports. It should have in there using price quotation dot models, and then our add helper tag or add tag helper. So the only thing that's left to do in here is this site.css file, and I don't want theirs. So I'm going to remove everything and write my own, and it won't be very long. So for the body, let's add a little bit of padding. Let's change the font family. So again, what we're doing in here, I believe you know this already, but what we're doing in here is we're doing straight CSS. We're doing no Bootstrap in here. All right, and I'll just grab the Arial Helvetica Sans Serif. All right, that should be good enough for our global stuff. Our H1, well, what they show in the book is that is navy and it's pushed to the top. So I'm going to say margin top 0 and color navy. And again, we could put in, if we wanted to, we could put in the RGB for that, or we could put in the hex code equivalent for that. But I'm just going to leave it as navy. All right. Then our labels, I'm going to do a display inline block, because by default, it's probably going to try to put those labels on their own line, and that's not what it shows here. I'm going to give them a width. Let's give them a width of about 10 Ms, and some right padding. of 1M. And then finally, for our divs, all right, let's give them a margin bottom of 0.5M. And I think I'm going to add one more thing in just a minute, but for now, this is okay. So this is our entire site.css file. I think I'm going to add one more thing, and you'll see what it is and why it is in just a moment. All right. So I'm hoping that you've had time to put that in. And again, if I'm going too fast on anything, please stop me. So let's run this and see what it looks like. Well, that isn't too bad. All right. But look, if I put nothing in here, that is coming up, but I'd kind of like to make that red and bold. And right now it's not. So it is giving us our messages. If we put something out of range, so how about 0 and -1 here? Again, we're getting our messages, but they're kind of ugly. They just look like the rest of the program. And our clear works. And if we say something was $100 and let's just say 25%, then that should be 25 and 75. So everything appears to be working right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more thing in here. And that is, and you don't have to do this, you weren't asked to, but I just think it looks a little nicer. And I'm going to come up to my index right here, and I'm going to add a class. I'm going to say class, and it's a validation summary. So I'm going to say class equal VS right there. I'm adding a class for my validation summary. All right, and that is inside of my index.cs HTML file. All right, then I'm going to go back to my site and I'm going to do something for that class. So .vs, and all I'm going to say is color, red, font weight, bold. All right, so I added this, which was over and above, I believe, what we were asked to do in the requirements. All right, I'm going to do another save all, just run it one last time just to make sure it works. All right, now with nothing in it, I think that is a little more reminiscent of the way I would want this to look if there were errors. And the same kind of thing in here. All of my error handling now is in red. I like that better. If you disagree, could leave it the way it is and it wouldn't hurt anything. Clear works, and again, 100. Let's give them 50% off and see if we get 50-50. We do, and clear. All right. Now, if you understand that one, that should go a long way towards your understanding when you take the test on Monday. So my question for you, Grant, you're the only one here, as you know, but do you have any questions on this?
I don't think I have any questions, but my code is not working right now. I've got some errors popping up.
All right. Do you want to share them, or, I mean,
Sure.
do you? So where are you getting errors in? What file or files?
It's let me run it again. It's from line 20 of, it's both from index.cs
They're both from
HTML.
index.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a look here.
It's the discount label.
This one?
It's at line 22.
Right here. What is it saying?
Cannot perform runtime binding on a null reference.
Null reference. The only thing I can think of with that, because where we are setting that is back in the model. So take a look in here and make sure that you have those else's in both cases and you're returning 0 in both cases.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
do.
All right. Does your model look just like my model? And I'm trying to figure out how it could be null because we are accounting for it in here.
Right.
All right. And I don't think, let me go back and check my notes. I don't think in these. Nope. All right. And of course, then where if we go into our controller, so let's look next at the home controller. All right. Does your index, I mean, probably I would guess, are you in your get? Are you initializing those to 0?
Yeah.
All right. And in your post, does your post look like this?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Then the best thing that I can tell you, if you don't mind, is we're going to take a break in a couple minutes. Go and push that out to your repo. And, I probably already have an invite to that, and I'll be happy to take a look at it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. All right. Let's start on the next one. All right. Just start on it. We'll go for about 7 or 8 minutes, then we'll take our first break. So file, save all. So I'm done with this one. Now, the reason I did it like this too is when we get to where we're styling, I could have just styled this one. But what I'm going to end up doing when we get to the styling part is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab the price quotation and I'm going to copy that into price quotation 2. Because what's going to end up changing in there will be our CSHTML files. But I don't believe, and we might change some stuff in our CSS, but I don't believe we're changing anything in our model or in our controller. So rather than rewriting those, that'll make it a lot easier. So for right now, I'm just going to grab that price quotation, copy it to the clipboard, open up my price quotation 2, and paste it in. All right. Now we're not going to do that one next. We're going to do the tip calculator. So let's take a quick look at that. All right. So you can put in the cost of a meal. And again, I believe that, there are some requirements on there. I again used I think $1 and $1 million in there. This is the only thing that we're inputting in here. The whole program is this. Whoops, is just that. And then think about it. What we're doing is we're taking that amount and multiplying it by 0.15, by 0.2, and by 0.25. All right. So in many ways, at least, this is even simpler, all right, than the one we just wrote. So again, it says when the app starts, it should display the empty text box, and these tip amounts should all be 0. If the user enters a valid meal cost, okay, and clicks calculate, the app should calculate and display these 3. Then if they enter invalid data, the app should display a summary again above the form and 0 for all the tip amounts. The cost of the meal is required, and even though all they said was it's greater than 0, I gave it a million is actually ridiculous, but that's fine. If the user clicks the clear link, it should reset basically, so everything in here, this is blank and these are zeros. We will again use the MVC pattern, etc. All right. So again, all I want to do is just start this and then we'll be ready to take a break. So I'm going to now come back in again and start up another instance of Visual Studio, new project, ASP.NET. Again in here, I'll just call this tip calculator. I'm going to put it into a folder that is also called tip calculator. All right, the solution name will also be tip calculator. I'll validate that I'm using 7.0. And again, I don't need to do any HTTPS. All right, I'm going to click create. And again, we've got our start. All right, just like before, I'm going to start by going into my models and I'm going to create a new model or a new class that I'm just going to call calculator.cs. Now that that is in there, I'm going to remove my error model.cs because I'm not going to use it. All right. And let's do this and then we'll take our break. So just to show you this, and I know you know it already, but I'm going to put in my using system.component model.data annotations first. And you'll notice it's gray right now, but as soon as I come in here and put in my required with my error message, you can see it's already gotten black. All right. So we will put in here, please enter a value for cost of meal. And again, as always, if you don't like what I'm using in here for verbiage, just use your own. It really and truly doesn't matter. And we will also add a range decorator in here. All right, and that range will be between $1 and $1 million. And we will again add an error message, an error message in here as well. And that will be cost of meal must be between $1 and $1 million. All right. With that said, we're going to have our public double, and we're not putting it into a database, so we will account for nulls. We'll call it meal cost because that's what it is, with a get set and one small method that we will call calculate tip. And we are going to pass into that method. Well, I don't know how it did that, but it did. We are going to pass into that method a double that we are going to call percent. And that percent will be either 0.15 to get a 15% tip, all right, 0.2 to get a 20% tip, or 0.25 to get a 25% tip. So if meal cost dot has value, meaning again, something was entered in there, all right, I'm going to say var tip equals this meal cost dot value times whatever percent we passed in, and we will return the tip. Otherwise, something again went awry, and we're just going to return 0.0. All right. So that is our model for this. That's everything. So we will take a break. And when we come back from the break, the first thing that we're going to do then is we're going to write the controller. After that, we are going to write the index.cs HTML file, then the layout.cs HTML file, then our site.css. So you can see there's a natural pattern that we're using here. All right, it is 1 o'clock. Let's take till 1:15. Grant, have you pushed that out?
I'm adding you as a collaborator right now.
Okay. All right. So I will take a look at it during the break, and let's come back at 1:15.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. There it is. Okay. Take a look. Hey, Grant, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, I just want to show you. I think I didn't run it yet, but notice how you spelled this.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that, I don't know if that screwed anything up or not. I have absolutely no idea. Well, looks a little better now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always something like that, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we all do it,
Yeah.
so looks like it's working to me. So I'm not
Okay.
going to send you back anything. I take for
Yeah.
granted that, you can fix that. So,
Yeah, thank you.
all right, we'll start up again in 5 then.
Okay.
All right, it's 1:15, so let's start back up again and bring up the right program. All right, so here we are, and we've so far again, we've gone in and we've created a model. So I'm going to go in and make some changes to the home controller, just like before. We're not going to use anything with logging. We're not going to do privacy. And you may or may not know this, but I really don't need the diagnostics either because that is with the logging. So we could have left it in there. I did in the other one. Does not hurt anything. All right. But again, we're going to come in here and we're going to decorate this with an HTTP GET. All right. And just like kind of like we did before, we're going to come in here and we're going to set up 3 view bags. A view bag .15, a view bag .20, and a view bag .25. And again, you can be as descriptive as you want in here. It doesn't want special symbols, but we could have called it 15%, 20%, and 25%. I figured this was okay the way that it was. All right, so there's our get, and now we'll need a post. And again, a lot of this stuff I'm going to keep saying all semester long. And one of those is, all right, when we're doing the get, we're basically delivering the form or putting the form out there. When we're doing a post, it's basically how we want this handled once we click a submit, calculate, or whatever button. All right, so let's come in here and again, public iAction result, and no, we don't want 15. We again want index, and this time it's calculator. And I just called mine calc. Again, you could call it pretty much what you wanted. All right. Now, it is index calculator calc. Let's see if that fixes itself. Yeah, not all paths return a value. Okay, it will in a minute. Again, we want to come in here and notice the IntelliSense. It's smart enough to say, okay, what you want to do is you want to go in and you want to check that particular one value that you have in there. Our model state has only got one thing to check. All right. And that basically is that cost of meal. And as long as there's something that's in there and it's numeric and it's within range, now we can say viewbag.15 equals calc.calculator, or what do we call that? I got to go back and check. Let me look at my other page here. Calculate tip. And we're going to pass into that 15%, 0.15. All right. And I'm just going to copy this and I'll make my 20 and that'll be 0.20 and I'll make my 25 and that will be 0.25. We're not done yet, of course, and we're not returning anything either right now. And I spelled calculator wrong, so that would help too, wouldn't it? All right. Otherwise, what do I want to do? Pretty much what you'd probably expect. And that is, I want to grab these 3 things and I want to set each one of them equal to 0.0. All right. And then finally, because we have to return something, we want to return view, but we need to put calc in there. So that is basically, that's the crux of what we're doing in our home controller. And again, hopefully at least that makes sense. All right. Okay. If you're not caught up, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to go on. And I'm going to go on to the index.cs HTML file. So under views, home, first thing I'm going to do is remove privacy because we removed that period. So I'm going to delete that. Okay. Also in shared here, I'm going to remove this validation scripts partial and the error, because again, we're not using either. And now I'm going to go into my index.cs HTML and start making changes. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a model. So add model, and it's the calculator model I want to add. All right. Next, I don't want to call this home page. I'm just going to call this tip calculator. All right. And then I'm going to get rid of all this because we don't need it. Now, this is going to look almost remarkably similar to what we just did with the other program, in that we're going to have in here first a validation summary that we're going to set equal to all. Then we're going to have a form, and that form is going to have a series of divs in it. All right, because really these two programs are almost remarkably similar. All right, so let's come in here. So there's our first one. And then let's do our form. And like I said to you before, we can say controller in here and set it equal to home. But again, we only have a home controller. Oops. This is our only input. All right. And now we're going to have basically the stuff that we're going to fill in. And we need the 15, and we need the 20, and we need the 25. So I'm going to write the one for the 15, and then I'm going to copy it twice. So we've got the 20 and the 25. Oh. And I can't say some of this stuff too much. Again, this is a label. This is a read-only field that we're using in here. So. And again, we'll do the toString. Well, not toString, toString, and we'll do that currency with 2 decimal places. Now, like I said before, I'm going to copy this and put it in here twice. So we've got the 15. Now I can just put in here the 20 here and here, and the 25 here and here. All right, we'll see in just a minute if I've made any mistakes typing, which is always possible. Finally, we're going to put one more div in here with our button and our index. All right, just like we did before. I could even go and copy them if I wanted to. So type equals submit, calculate. All right, and ASP action equal index clear. And what I am going to do is like we did before, one last thing. I'll move up and then I'll move right back down again. And that is in this validation summary rather, I'm going to, like I did before, I'm going to say class equal VS. And I'm going to have a class for my validation summary, just like I did before. And again, it's not mandatory that you do that. All right, so let me put this back in there and give you a chance to get that, because really the only thing we have to do now is a very simplistic layout like we did before. We will check our view imports, and then we will copy over the site dot CSS from the last one, because I'm using the same thing. All right, so hopefully you've got all that. I'm again going to do a view or a file save all. And I'm going to bring up my layout file, which again is a lot bigger than we need. So just like before, I'm going to remove these two. I'm going to change this so that it says lib/css/ oh, what was it? It's not finding it. Was it just CSS? Yes, it is. All right. So I've now rewritten my head with just putting in this. All right. And now I'm going to rewrite the body. So again, under the header, all I want in here is an H1 that says tip calculator. All right. I don't need the nav bar, so I'm going to get rid of it. That really made this a lot smaller. And again, I'm not doing anything in here really I'm not doing anything in here with Bootstrap, so I can remove that. I can just keep the main. I don't need the div. I'm not doing any Bootstrap rendering here, so to speak. And I can remove all this all the way down to my body tag. So that's the entire layout file right there, unless I missed something or typed in something incorrectly. So I'll give you a second to catch up on that. And we'll quickly look at the view imports file. All right, so with all that, doing a save all, I'm going to go and look quickly at the view imports file. It's got my tip calculator models, and my tag helper. It appears as though adding those two using statements, it's something that I think was put into a recent version of Visual Studio, because as far as I remember, when I did this a year ago, I had to manually go in there and type that stuff. And anytime the system will give me a little less work, I'm actually okay with that. All right, so I'm going to quickly jump back for just a second. I'm going to jump back to the one we just did right here. You can do this or not do it. It's up to you. But I'm going to go into my www roots CSS. I'm going to open that one and I'm going to copy everything that's in there. Then I'm going to go back into here so I don't have to sit and retype a lot of stuff while you watch me type. I'm going to replace everything that was in there with this. So if you want to type it, I'll leave it up there for a moment or two. All right. Or again, you can copy it. Whatever's the easiest for you to do is what I want you to do. But we should be just about done with the second of the four that we're doing today. So in just a moment, all right, we'll run it, make sure that it works, test it out, etc. And then we'll go on to the price quote extended example. All right, so we had that, and we also have that at the bottom. All right, let's see if this one then, we'll see if this one works. So a file, save all. Let's run it. Doesn't like something. Found a malformed body tag helper. Body, header, main, head. Looks like it's right here. Site.css. I didn't put this in here like that. I think that's what it was. All right, it's not fixing my error, but we'll see in just a moment. So let me do a file, save all here, and run it again. I don't know if that's from this one or not, so let me run it one more time. Could be. Yep. So I'm getting that same error. But if you look here where I've got 20, notice I've got a letter N in there. Not on purpose. All right. But you're not the only one who can mistype, I guess. So let's go back and look. There's 20N. Fix that. 25, 15. That's one of the wonders of copy and paste, as you know. So let's try it again. All right, that looks better. All right, so let's come in here. First, let's put in nothing. Please enter a value for the cost of meal. Good. Let's put in something that's out of range. Cost of meal must be between 1 and a million. That looks good. Let's put in 100. So when let's clear it. And let's put in 100. So this should be $15, $20, and $25. So as far as I can tell, it works. Now I'm just asking you, Grant, because again, as you know, you're the only one here. Any problems with that one?
Yeah, I ran into it. I think I got a typo somewhere. I've actually got it, I think, working now. Kind of. I had to delete the converting it to a currency string. There's
Okay.
something I didn't like with that, but I've got it
Well,
running.
again, typically what that means when that happens is someplace in your program where you're using a view bag, you've spelled it two different ways.
Yeah. So, but mine is calculating correctly. It just doesn't have the $sign on it.
All right. Well, and again, I'll let you look at that because I don't think that's not too bad, really.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, then let's move on to the next one. Now, they're not all going to be like this, as you'd guess, because really next week, when we get into chapter 4, after you take the test, we're going to be bringing in the database component. All right. And when we do that, that will, as you can probably guess, complicate matters somewhat. And what we're doing right now, I mean, when you look at these two programs, we could have written these in C# in a lot less time. All right, it probably would have been much easier, but this is just to show you that indeed you can create programs like that. Now, remember what I did earlier was I went to my price quotation 1, and I took what was in there called price quotation, and I copied it into my price quotation 2. All right, so that's what I'm working with now. And in this one, we're going to be doing 3-1. So we've gone in here, we've done this one, and we're now going to go to 3-1. All right. In this project, as it says, we will use Bootstrap to improve the appearance of the app described in 2.1. When you're done, it should look like this. Now, a couple things, such as, well, I went back and redid mine, and we'll see if mine works now or not. Everything works, but for some reason, this was appearing on 2 lines, and so was this. Not sure why, but I'll have to go back and check my stuff. The other thing is this works just fine, but I don't know if in my, probably I have to go into my site.css file and play with it a little bit. And what I mean is it doesn't look quite as chunky as this one does. This is a Jumbotron, all right? And I don't know if I made my buttons green or not, but we'll look at all that stuff. Again, the idea more than anything else in here is, were we able to put this stuff in? So looking here, use a horizontal form for small, medium, and large screen sizes. For this form to layout property, you should, for each row, use a div element that's assigned to the row and form group classes. Code each input within a div. Display a validation message in the third column. All right, it says, note in the first printing of this book, the code was incorrect. It should be coded as described by corrections. Fine, we're not using the old book anyway. Next, use a vertical form on extra small screens, so like on a phone. All right. Next, start the page with a Jumbotron component that uses one of Bootstrap's context classes to set the background color. All right. In addition, it should center the text and make it white. Now, I didn't read this. What I mean is, when I went in for my CSS, I made it green. I should have made it success, which would have been the right green. All right. And I should have made the text in there just white. I think I did that. I think that worked. In the Jumbotron, specify an H1 element that specifies the name of the app and a font awesome icon named Money Bill Alt. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that, but there's some stuff in there that, although it's recommended that you put in, I didn't, and I'll explain why when we get there. Style the calculate and clear buttons as buttons, set their background to the same color used as the Jumbotron, which is success. Display the validation messages in red. Add margin and or padding between elements to improve the look of the form. And override the Bootstrap style so that it is 4 rem units for the Jumbotron. Okay, hopefully all of that stuff made sense. The bottom line is we want it to look like this. All right, so let's get going on that then. Now, to start with, because we've got all this stuff open because it was open before. Again, I don't need this using system diagnostics. It's not a big thing whether we leave it in there or whether we don't leave it in there. All right, but to me, any code that we don't need is like that is superfluous. In other words, why put it in there when we don't need it? So let's start by looking at, not here, but let's go to our model. I don't think we need to change anything in here, but I want to go take a quick look. All right, we've got our using statement, our namespace. We've got a thing where we're checking the sales price and the amount. It's in there as a public double. And again, it's got the question mark. And again, I called it subtotal. We do the same type of thing for the discount amount, but that is between 0 and 100%. And it's a double and it's discount percent. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is discount percent. We again have our calculate discount. Nothing has to change in here. So do the discount if there's one to do, otherwise return 0. And our calculate total. All right, which is going to be whatever we put in for our sales amount or our subtotal minus the discount, which we get from calling calculate discount. Otherwise, if it's invalid, 0. So I don't think there is anything in there that we have to change. All right, Next, let's go in and let's look at our home controller. In fact, I'm just going to close that for now. All right. And I'm going to take a quick look here at the home controller.cs file. All right. Now, as far as I'm concerned, now Grant, and I'm saying this more for you, but this is the benefit for everybody in the class. All right. I want you to get this stuff. That said, when you're turning in an assignment, I'm not going to take 1 point off if you don't get that $sign in there. That's fine with me. But when you're given a test and you're told that something should look a certain way, I want it to look that way. All right. So the idea is maybe you'll spend a little more time on it now so it'll work a little easier when you do the test, but it's your call. All right. So for the home controller, again, we've got our two using statements, our namespace. We've got our get, which again, public eye action index. We're setting discount and total both to 0.0, returning the view, totally fine. All right, then we've got our post, which has got our quotation in it, just like before. We check the model state to make sure that what we put in was valid. If it is, the discount is equal to that quote, dot, calculate discount, and the total is equal to that quote, dot, calculate total. That looks good. Otherwise, we set both our view bag, the discount, and the total to 0. All right, and we return the view with that quote being passed in as well. That looks good. So far, we haven't changed anything. All right, so let's go into our index.cs HTML file, even though I haven't changed anything. So I'm going to go in here next and start taking a look in here. All right. Model quotation, good. View data, that's fine. Form, ASP. Well, in here, we're not told to put the action thing above it. We're told to put it on the side or below it. I think it was one or the other. So I'm going to remove this. I can remove it. I can comment it out, but I'm just going to remove it. All right. Then we've got our form. Our action, again, as I told you before, this is optional because, again, there's only one controller. All right, we've got our action and our method of post. Now we're going to start making changes. Each one of these, except the last one, is going to change from a div to a div class equal row and also form group. Now, I tend to sit and do a lot of copying and then things get screwed up. So I'm just going to do each one of these on their own because when I did it, like I said, mine wasn't formatted correctly and I'm going to shoot for that now. So I've got div class equal row and then form group. For the label here, we're also going to come in, move this over just a bit there, and I'm going to say class equal col for small devices, 3, our ASP4, whoop, I need my double quote. Our ASP4 is subtotal, that looks good. Then our input here, all right, we're told to do this differently. We're told that this should be inside of a div. All right, so this input here should be in a div, and we're going to do this for both of these. All right, so in here, the div should have a class. Of call small 4, not 3, but 4. And our input should also come in here and have a class that's equal to form control. Like that. All right, and again, for some reason, I am removing my extra or my ending double quote. All right, after that div, we want to put in a span. The class is going to be equal to column small. And also we'll put in their text danger so that automatically will be red for us. and our ASP validation here. Now we're not going to do for a 4 equal all here. We're going to do it a field at a time. So this is for subtotal. All right. Now I went through that quickly, but so let's take just a second and look at this again. All right. Everything is in this big div. We have taken the div and we have said, since we're working in Bootstrap now, and remember in Bootstrap, and you're going to see this in just a minute when we get into the layout, but in Bootstrap, everything's a container. And that container is going to hold rows. Plus, since we're working with a form, this will be a form group for our label. All right. We're also making sure that the size is for small devices and up 3. All right. And we're using the subtotal. All right. And for the actual form control itself, all right, for the actual control itself, just looking here, so form group looks right to me. All right. And then there's our span down here to handle that. So I'm going to use that one, but I'm not going to sit and copy. I'm going to go and redo all of these. So this div will now have a class that is equal to row form group. So that's the first one. Then our label here will have a class, and it'll be equal to col small 3. Like that. Again, why is that removing? All right, so that's done. And then this will have to, again, be put into a div. And we will have a span at the bottom. So this will again be class equal form control. And our ASP4 is fine. And we need a span right here. And this one is for the discount percent, I believe. All right, so I'll give you a second to catch up on that. And then we will do our discount amount and our total. And remember for those, okay, down here, as you can see, they're quote, just labels, unquote. All right. And I'm looking at this and I don't remember why, but I made this one a row with a form group and the last one just a row. And I don't know if that's what I meant to do or not, but I'm going to make both of them row form group. So I'm hoping you caught up with everything we've done into here, and I'm going to move down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to again say class equal row form group like that. All right, and then coming in here, all right, for these last two, they're just quote labels. All right, so it'll be a label, but we can put classes in here. So class equal col SM3, so it maps up with the other one. All right, with a discount amount. And this one will be class col SM4. So again, so it maps up with the other one. And I forgot, I didn't put an equal sign there, I guess. All right. And I think, at least, I believe that that's right in the way that I want it. We'll find out in just a bit. And I'm going to come down and do the same thing for the last one here. So again, I'm always suspicious when that doesn't go blue. So div class equal, I'm wondering if I missed something here. Yep, I've got an extra double quote right there. Okay. All right, and then label again, class equal col SM3 for this one. And for the other one here, it will be class equal col SM4. All right, so that should be correct. Again, it's always possible the way I type, I could have made a mistake. All right, now for the very last one that's here, all right, it's not part of a form group because it's not part of our form. So for this last one, I'm just going to say class equal row. All right, and I'm going to put these into a div. Not there. Sorry about that. Enter. Now a div. And I'm going to move these up into the div. All right. And we're going to add some classes in here. Since it's a button, we can say class equal BTN, BTN success, because it's supposed to be green. All right. And then type equals submit, just like we had before, and calculate. That should be fine. And this one is going to be a link, but with that said, we can still style it just like a button. All right. So I'm going to say in here, class equals BTN, BTN success. And we're going to put a little bit of margin there so that the two buttons are not connected to one another. Like that. And I'll leave that up for just a moment. So what's left to do is to quickly modify our layout. Then we have to go and double check our view imports file to make sure everything has been brought over. And I'm sure that it has, but we'll check it anyway. And then finally, we'll go back and we're not going to use the same, we're not going to use exactly what we used before. Now, just so you know, it may matter to you, it may not matter a lick to you. But with these spans, we could add the class in here, that VS thing, so we would bold everything. All right, but I'm just going to leave it off for now. I want to see if this is going to work okay the way that it is. So let me come in and do a file, save all, and let's go into our layout underscore layout .cs HTML file, which is in shared, of course. So it's right here. All right. Basically, what we want to come in and do in here is we want to add our links to the Bootstrap CSS. Plus, we have to have a link to font awesome as well. And then we'll do a couple things for the header. We are going to put this back into I guess we didn't even have to put it into a div. We're going to put this whole thing into a div in just a minute. So the doc type's fine. The HTML with the language is English is fine. The head is fine. I should mention too, we're not going to be validating these. So technically that isn't needed. The lang equal en really is only necessary if you're going to run it through the HTML validator. All right. It doesn't hurt to put it in. It never does. I'm going to leave the char set and the viewport in here. I'm going to leave my title in here, all that stuff. All right. And then I'm going to come down here to my links. All right. Now, this one I want in here last because I want to be able to put in my other links and in particular, my link to Bootstrap CSS. I want that in there last. All right. This one, because I want this to override anything that I might be getting through Bootstrap. So here I'm going to do a link. And I want the Bootstrap dot, why doesn't it give me that? Should. These are all Bootstrap grid, Bootstrap reboot. That's the one I want. Just bootstrap.css. Probably could use the min too if it was in there instead. I don't think it would matter one way or the other. The only difference, and I know you probably know this already, but again, I'm saying this for the benefit of everybody. The difference between using the bootstrap.min.css and using the bootstrap.css is the .min has been minified. That's what the min is for. So it's going to be smaller when it loads. All right, this is not a big program, but if you were actually doing something for somebody, you probably would want the minified version. All right, now the next thing that we're going to do in here, and it doesn't matter if we do this before or after, I'll just put it right here, is we're going to bring in font awesome. All right, now when you bring in font awesome, all right, I'm going to go out there. I want to show you something here from this. So I'm going to go out to cdnjs.com. All right, not .co, sorry. Yeah, that domain is for sale, even though I don't want it. There it is. So if I come in here and I type in font awesome, okay, and I grab the link tag, I'm just going to grab the whole thing and copy it. All right, I'm not going to put it into my program. I'm going to put it onto a blank thing because I want to show you this. All right, and that is in particular all of this stuff. The cross origin that's here at the end, and the referrer policy and the integrity. Technically, all I'm going to bring into this is the link rel equals style sheet and then the path to font awesome. All right, so I'm going to just bring in this part. The reason that I'm telling you that is actually considered to be a security risk. By putting in the integrity and the cross origin, that is making sure as you do copying, etc., that it is not only going to grab the right one, but it's going to do some internal testing to make sure nobody is modified with that file. All right, but I didn't do that, just so you know. But normally you really should do that. I just came in here and did this. I said link rel equals style sheet. All right, and just put it on a new line, but href equals, and I've got https://use.fontawesome.com/releases/v5.0.1, not 9, 0.1/css/all.css, like that. All right. So with that said, I don't think there is any problem at all doing that. That's what I'm telling you. All right. But as I just mentioned to you, it would be safer to not do it that way. The problem is with what I've got on here, either we'd have to use the one I just grabbed from, and I probably could use that one too. Let's just see what that one says. See, it doesn't have the use, and I believe we need that. I don't remember where I got that from. It might have even been that I went back and looked at the way the author did it. I don't know. All right. So that's it until we get to our body here. And remember, we talked about this before. When you are working with Bootstrap, you use the container class. All right, so I'm going to grab all of this stuff that we had in here, and I'm going to throw it into my div like that. And the header, we want this to be in a Jumbotron. We want it, we'll center the text. All right. And the text will be white. and the background is going to be success, which is that green. All right. Just like that. Now, I didn't do this earlier, so hold on for a second because I just want to show you something. And that is, I'm going to go back for a second here. All right. We did use the success here. Okay, I was wrong. Good. Because we want these to match. Is it that big a thing? No, not at all. But we were asked to do that. Where am I now? There we go. All right, so we're just about finished here. Let's go to the H1 here, and we're supposed to bring in that dollar sign. That dollar sign is from Font Awesome. All right, so come in here and we do this. Span. Class equal FAS. FA, money. Oops. Bill, alt, PR-2. All right. That should bring in, hopefully, the dollar sign for us. And the main role equal main is fine the way it is. The render body, etc. That's all fine the way that it is. I'll give you a second in case you've fallen a little bit behind to catch up. All right, I'm going to check the imports file, but first I'm going to do a file save all. I'm going to check my view imports. And I have my price quotation top models, and my add tag helper. That's good. So I'm going to close that. And I'm going to go over to my CSS file, which is under www root. And if you remember, that's the one that we added from earlier. All right, I don't want that one anymore because we've already got our bootstrap stuff in here. I only want to do one thing in here. We were told to do this in the requirements. And that is for the Jumbotron, we were told to set a font size of 4 rem. Right? And I believe that's everything. Now, I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it'll look the way I want it to look, etc. But I'm going to try it right now. Well, there's problems, as you can see. All right, let's first see if it still works. So 100 at a discount percent of 10. All right, 10 and 90, those work, so that's a start. Clear works, well, that's good. All right, how about our errors? They're not showing. So something is missing. That's pretty obvious. All right, I'm looking at this, and when I'm looking at this, what I'm noticing is it looks like none of my bootstrap is taking hold right here. All right, so that makes me think, at least, that I'm going to take a quick look and I'm going to go over into my layout and make sure I put that in a correct manner. So it's under lib, bootstrap, dist, CSS, bootstrap.css. It looks like that is correct. I mean, it's pathing to it. It should be correctly. Now, that said, it's not picking up in here in my index. It's not picking up this, etc. And it's also not picking up my layout with my col small 3 and 4 because those should all be on one line. So something is screwed up on here. All right. And I haven't even looked at the authors, so let's quickly, I'm going to bring up the authors to see if the authors is correct. All right, so let's see. That would be here, and instructors and student projects, project solutions, 3, price quote. Quickly, while it's loading, I'm going to come in here and look in www.root. There's the site. Yeah, that's all they put in there. And I'm also going to look in the views, shared layout, just looking for something they may have done that I may not have done. Again, they put in the integrity and that I didn't. I think I have a rel equals style sheet in mind. All right, I'll look just to be sure in just a second, but let's run it and see what theirs looks like. Could be running. There it goes. Yep, that's the way it's supposed to look. All right, and I'm sure it works then. All right, please enter a percent. Okay, 10. All right. Oops, I screwed that up. So let's put in 0 here. Oh, it does allow 0, so -5 and -5. It's giving the errors over here. All right, so theirs is working. And I will give you my word for whatever that is or is not worth. But I will give you my word that I will go and take a look at my code and map that up with the authors to see what, if anything, I'm doing wrong. So I do have a rel equal style sheet here, and I've got the rel equal style sheet there. All right. So it's working in that it's giving the right answers, but it's not formatted correctly. All right. It is 2:07. Let's take a 13-minute break until 2:20, and then we're going to come back and do the case study. All right. And maybe during that time, I'll take a look and see if I can see anything that they did that I didn't do. Here, make sure there was nothing. Shouldn't be anything changed in there. I don't see anything. Model. see anything in there that's different. So let's go to the, gotta be in the views. Let's look in here and see if there's anything different. It's the same to me. Oh. What the hell am I doing wrong? Or am I looking at? Not looking at mine. Okay. These two phones. This is mine. Where's the layout? Where's my layout? I'm doing the jar set. Why would that matter? Strip CSS. Got dist, and they don't have dist. Did nothing. All right. One thing, I did not have a rel equal style sheet on mine. Okay, when I was going, and I changed it from bootstrap.css to min just as I was playing around with it, that's all. And now when I run it, it's not perfect, but it's looking more the way it is supposed to be looking. And what I mean is, it now looks like, let me get rid of some of this stuff here. It now looks like this. So I'm going to fix this I'll fix it as soon as class ends. All right. And I'll let you know in the next class what I did, or I'll put it in the note or the email that I sent today. All right. So it's just about there, for lack of better words. I want to go in and do the last problem though. So let's do a save all. I'm going to close that. And now we're going to do the case study. Now, it's actually, believe it or not, there's only one file that involves any kind of typing. And it's about 60 lines, and we're going to do it together. All right. But as we get to that point here, this is what we're shooting for. All right. None of this is operational. All right. And you can maybe guess already looking at this stuff that's right here. All right. We're going to need a product controller, a technician's controller, a customer's controller, an incidents controller, a registrations controller, etc. We're going to need all that stuff. We're going to actually create those now, but we're going to leave them almost totally empty. All right. And if you say, what do you mean? Just give me a second here. So I'm going to use this case study, and I'm going to start up a new instance of Visual Studio. And I'm going to do a new project. It'll be a model view controller. I will call it I'm just going to call it case study for now. That's fine. And I'm going to put it in the folder that's called case study. All right, so case study, case study, case study. Next. Now, this will be a little different. I am going to configure this for HTTPS. All right. I'm not going to do anything with Docker. Now, with the authentication type, all right, we may want to eventually go in and do authentication. So we could choose individual accounts, but rather than doing that, I think what they have you do later in the book is add it manually. All right. So I'm just going to keep it at none, and I'm going to click create. And like I said, we're not going to do a lot with this now. I'm not going to say, hey, we'll be done by 3 or what. I don't know. We'll be done when we're done. All right. But what I want to do is I'm not going to put anything in my CSS. All right. But we're not even going to do anything with the models. We're not going to remove anything. We're not going to add anything. We're not going to do anything with models. All right. But I am going to go to the controller. I'm going to go to the home controller. And as we've been doing, all right, I'm going to remove the diagnostics. I'm going to remove all the loggers stuff. All right. For now, at least, I'm going to remove everything else that's in here. I'm not going to worry about having a get, HTTP get, and an HTTP post. We're not there yet. But I am going to come in here and I'm going to put a public I action in here, result, and we're going to call it about. And all we're going to do in here, just like above, is to return a view. That's it. That's all we're going to put in here for now for our home controller. We're not building any controllers now. That's what I want you to understand. But while we're doing this, we're going to add 4 more controllers right now. All right. So I'd like you to come over to controllers, right mouse click, choose add controller, MVC controller empty. You'll do that for all of them. The first one will be a customer controller. So the word customer followed by the word controller.cs. And it's going to look like this. We're done with this one now. We're going to make 3 more in here. The next one we're going to create then will be an incident controller. So again, add controller, MVC controller empty, incident controller .cs. We've now got that one. Two more, we're going to make a product controller and a technician controller. So come in here, add controller empty, and this will be a product controller. .cs, there's that one. And finally, we'll come in and we will do a technician's controller. Like that. Now, we didn't have to do that for this exercise. The reason that I did it and did it now, all right, it'll save us some time later. All right. Now, oh crud. Well, we're gonna keep going anyway. I'm gonna go and do something I wouldn't normally do, but in my views here, we've got an index and we've got a privacy, right? You know that. Well, we're not using the privacy anymore, so I'm going to remove that. I forgot to print out my index view. I don't have it here. I've got my layout, but I don't have my index view. So I'm going to steal the authors for now. I hate doing that. Sorry, but I'm just going to do that. So we have something in here. Now they don't have a solution for chapter 3, so I'm going to use the one for chapter 4, and we may have to make, cut some stuff out of it. I don't know. In fact, I'm going to just grab both of these, I think. Let's open this one. Whoops, let's open this one first. All right. And it's kind of ugly, but I'm going to put it in here and then we'll go over it. Okay. So let me grab this. Again, I have this. I've done it. I don't know if mine is the same as theirs. If it's not, it's pretty doggone close. All right. So I'm going to do that. And after I do that, all right, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add the about. All right, get rid of that and grab their about because I didn't copy that over either. All right, let's look at the about first because that's the easier one. A lot smaller, just a few lines. And what this is supposed to say, as you can see in here, it's got admin for a title. All right, there'll be a Jumbotron. It's going to be kind of a grayish background, I believe. And move this down. That's it. So it's got a paragraph in here that just basically says that. So I'll give you a chance if you want to key that in, you can. All right. And again, when we click the about link in just a few minutes, this is what should come out. All right. It should be a Jumbotron. The background is secondary, which is a grayish, kind of a dark gray. We have a margin top in there of 4. All right, our H1 will have a class of text light, so it'll be very whitish. It'll say about, and our paragraph will be very lightish as well, and you can see what that says. Let me know when you got that done, please.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
All righty. Sorry about that. I don't know how I lost my stuff, but it is what it is. So, all right. So here's the index. Now, before you type anything, okay, it says here for the title technicians. I'm not sure why, but again, we got admin here. If you look in here, we're using list group items. So this stuff that you see right here, and I'm going to give you time to put it in a second, but let's just take a look at everything that's in here. What I mean is this: we want to go in and we want to create this. All right. So this is what we want it to say. So it's got admin here, and then it's got managing all this stuff, and then it's got technicians here, and it's got updating all this stuff. This right here, these are list groups. And how do I know that? Because again, when you look in here, there they are. They're list group items. So the manage products, the manage everything, that's the first one that's under admin. And that's the other one that's under technicians. Not a lot to type, but it is, like I said, it's about 25 or so lines. So I'll leave that up there for about 5 minutes. I'm going to shut up for a while. And let me know when you've got the first 20 lines put in, please.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, there's just a few more lines in here. So if you're up to line 20, that's what it goes up to.
Okay.
And what's left after this is the file, the layout.cshtml file. It's 50 or 51 lines long. Again, I'm going to copy the authors. I do have it. I've got it right in front of me. All right. But rather than keying it in, maybe it's the lateness of the day. I don't know. I'm just going to grab the authors for now. So we've got something in there. Do you have those last few lines?
Doing the last one right now.
All right.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. And like I said, I think I'm going to grab the authors here. And what it'll be in shared layout. Why I keep doing that, I don't know. Yeah, AC. All right. So for the layout, before I'll give you time to look at this in just a second. Let's run it and see what it looks like. It's totally non-operational. I'm just telling you that right now. That's not what you're supposed to do in chapters 1, 2, and 3. All right. Well, I can tell my about isn't moved over like it should be. And everything else I think looks okay. Let's see what they, compare this to the way they show it in the book. Okay, it looks like for whatever reason, my active, all the actives are supposed to be set, but mine I have to hover over for the active. But everything else, as far as I can tell, looks okay. All right. Okay. So let me give you that code and let's first take a quick look at it. All right. Whoops. Let me cancel that and remove that. There we go. All right. So most of it is the stuff we've already seen. There's really nothing new in the head section. We're bringing in our meta tags. We're setting our title. We're bringing in the Bootstrap Min CSS. We're bringing in our site CSS, and we're bringing in the jQuery. I don't know if it would work without the jQuery or not. I don't remember, but we could try, because again, starting with version 5 of Bootstrap, it no longer required jQuery, so you probably could leave those out. But I'll just have you, they're there anyway. All right, let me stop the run here. I guess it is running. All right. Then we come into our body section. And in the header, this is our navigation area. All right. And here, notice in here, let's see. This is why it's non-operational, because right now we don't have a product list. We do have a home index. We don't have a technician list or a customer list or a incident list. I don't even know if we did a registration or not. I don't think we even added a registration controller. So we've got to add all that stuff. All right. And this looks pretty similar to what we have. This is something a little bit new. You may or may not have noticed, but on the one in the book, it said 2020 and here it says 2023. We're telling it to go out to the system clock and grab the current year. Not that that's a gee whiz, but just so you know that. So I'll give you a couple minutes here. Let me know when you got the first 20 or so lines done and then I'll move it down. I'll tell you, Grant, what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab the file and I'm gonna copy it for you. All right, because it's late in the day and it's too easy to make a mistake. Not that you would, but I'm sure I could easily.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do is to a file right now, file, and I'm gonna do a save as, and I'm gonna save it out to the desktop. And I'll send it out to you and to everybody else. So we've got to start here. All right. After you get that, run it and see what it looks like. And if you've got the start, I'm not even that concerned with people turning in this one, because really chapter 4 is when we're going to start bringing the database into this. Okay. And I promise you that as soon as I'm done today, I'm going to go in and I'm going to compare mine to the authors and see whatever I did wrong on the extended price quote one and why my stuff looks so funky. And I'll get that and I'll let everybody know. So I'm going to send that out to you right now, but we've been going for almost 3 hours. And I think personally, I think that's enough for today. All right. So I will send you this out in just a moment and I will talk to you tomorrow. I'm not here, but I will be online, and Tuesday will be your test. You will get the test by 7 a.m. as always, and I will go over the test between 12:05 p.m. and 12:20 p.m. All right, so I'm going to send this out to you right now. I'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, too.
Thanks.